busy schedule ahead of us. We'll begin as we always do with an invocation, and I invite Magistrate George Warren to lead us in prayer. Please stand.
Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to come together today as we are. Please watch over those who are in foreign countries, protecting those people, but not only protecting those people, but also showing what a democracy can do. Dear Lord, help us in our decisions so that we do what is the best for all the people of the community, and watch over other leaders throughout the state and the nation so that they always are mindful of what the impact of their decisions will be and be for the benefit of the greatest good. Dear Lord, watch over our youth as they are our future leaders, and help us to always be mindful not only of our community, but don't forget those at our home, that we don't get so busy that we forget how important our youth and our children and our spouses are. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brent, I'm having a technical problem up here. I can't get my mouse to start the recording. I did, and it's still not doing it.
Your mouse is not?
Which is not working today.
Jeez.
While Brent looks at that, Sue, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate Warren.
Here.
Magistrate Alexander.
Here.
Magistrate Todd.
Here.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Here.
Gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the October 3rd Henderson County Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
So move. Second.
A motion and a second. Any other corrections, clarifications, or additions? Please call the roll.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Thank you. You have in your packets the new Henderson County Solid Waste 5-year plan, and I'd like to call Solid Waste Coordinator Nancy Watkins up. And while she does that, I'd like to get a motion to go into public hearing to discuss this plan, please.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions before we go into public hearing? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Steve, would you please swear her in?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Would you state your name, please?
Nancy Watkins.
Go right ahead.
Okay, Nancy, thank you for being here this morning. As required by the state, you have updated your 5-year plan, and I was wondering if you could give us a highlights of how this plan may differ from the one we're just ending.
Well, there's new members on the advisory committee, closing of the limb drop-off at the road department, and we're still accepting leaves. The city withdrew from Henderson Recycling. The 5-year plan reflects how the county and city are recycling in different capacities, and the closing of the CD&D landfill and is a transfer station only, and the fee changes that the city has implemented.
So it reflects all those changes which we've undergone in the last couple of years. Any fiscal court members have any questions about this?
We were teasing. There was just one little typo. I was going to, under the community cleanup, she left out Hephardsville, and so I was going to add Hephardsville. So she was.
We'll make that change.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, as she pointed out, it reflects the new way of handling recycling that we are coordinating now, and we also reflect the new charges based on our the closure of our city-county dump and the fact that we are now a transfer station. So those are the major things. And
Yes.
At this point, I will ask for anybody from the public who'd like to comment on the 5-year plan. Anybody from the audience would like to comment? Other than that? One last time, anybody like to comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
And barring any other questions or comments for Nancy, I'll entertain a motion to accept her 5-year plan.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any other comments?
I will say she's done an excellent job. Nancy really has. Anytime we've needed something out in our area, and countywide, I should say, in that your ability to get volunteers to help you. So I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Nancy just had a spot review from state officials, periodic spot reviews that they do. Of course, just randomly pick counties and pass with flying colors. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And everything is smooth so far. I appreciate her work. So without any other comments,
Good job.
Thank you.
we just take a vote.
Do you need a motion?
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
We have a motion.
Not, do we? Okay,
Yeah.
for this? Okay.
Yeah. Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Thank you, Nancy. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Next, I'll call Bill Hubiak up. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to do this first. Okay. Gentlemen, when we passed the Volunteer Fire Department ordinance, our original plan was to hold the payments until after the delinquency deadline, March 31st, and disperse the money to the volunteer fire departments in one lump sum. After further research, the state auditors, at Ed Brady's request, informed him that actually their department needed to handle the fees from the volunteer fire departments the same way that they handled the rest of their tax disbursements, which is a monthly disbursement, reconciling all the accounts monthly. And with that information, we have written an amendment to the volunteer fire department ordinance to reflect that requirement. And we have let the volunteer fire department chiefs know about this change. Glenn Powell is here this morning. There were actually no serious concerns to actually getting the money sooner than later. That was no problem. And they are working on getting an agreement put together to help remunerate the City County Rescue Squad, and that agreement will be altered slightly to reflect this change that we're voting on now. But we do have an ordinance in front of us that makes this slight change that not only requires or directs the sheriff to disperse the receipts of the fees monthly, but also changes it slightly to also require a record of membership charges collected and dispersed and not a separate account, because that is also not how it actually happens at the Sheriff's Department. And you see that in the ordinance there in front of you. Are there any questions or comments about this? And again, we've worked closely with Ed's staff to make this as smooth as possible and follow their procedures based on state direction. And it doesn't change or alter the amount of money or anything like that the volunteer fire department's going to receive. They'll just receive it on the monthly installments.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? So I will have the clerk read the ordinance, please.
May I read the summary, or do
Is
you
that
want
okay
me?
with everybody?
Well, the summary is actually the title is actually the title of the original
Yeah, it
ordinance.
doesn't
just says an ordinance amending that ordinance.
Okay.
So you
Not a
actually
problem.
might be better off skipping that and just going to the ordinance.
I will do that. Whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court adopted ordinance number 17-02 on April 28, 2017, as a method for collection of membership charges or subscriber fees for volunteer fire departments within Henderson County by placing such fee notices on property tax bills issued by the county, along with an opt-out procedure for subscribers. Whereas said ordinance required the sheriff to distribute funds collected no sooner than March 31st of each year, and whereas the sheriff has been informed by the state auditor that any funds received must be distributed monthly. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the Fiscal Court of Henderson County, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows. Number 1, Section 4, subsection A of Ordinance 17-02, passed April 28, 2017, is hereby amended to read as follows. Pursuant to KRS Chapter 75 and Chapter 273, the membership charges or subscriber fees shall be collected and distributed by the Henderson County Sheriff to the appropriate certified volunteer fire department in the same manner as taxes on the bill. A record of membership charges collected and dispersed for each volunteer fire department shall be maintained by the sheriff. 2. All other provisions of Ordinance 17-02 remain in full force and effect. 3. The provisions of this ordinance are severable. If any sentence, clause, section, or part of this ordinance or the application thereof is for any reason found to be unconstitutional or invalid, such finding shall not affect or repeal any of the remaining provisions. Number 4. All ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith are to the extent of such conflict are hereby repealed. This ordinance becomes effective immediately upon its passage and publication.
Any questions about that from any members of the court? Any members of the public here with us that have any comment about that? This will be first reading of this amendment to the ordinance. Entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
Magistrate Wilkerson.
And as a result of this amendment, the Sheriff's Department will be dispersing these fees to the volunteer fire departments sooner than we had originally intended. And one of the requirements of the court was to set an annual fee that would cover the costs of the program, collection of the program, and any affiliated cost in administering it. So now that these disbursements are going to go out starting next month, we needed to go ahead and set the fee. The good news is that the costs so far associated with this first year of implementation are much lower than we had feared, and that's a good thing. We're looking at approximately $1,000, $1,100 from the software company that designs the property tax bills, Data Design. The software company that helps the PVA office, their fee is going to be in the neighborhood of $1,000. We're still determining that yet. We're going to spend about $3,000 to send out postcards to folks after the first of the year, reminding of the next opt-out year. We want to cover that cost. And also we anticipate that the Sheriff's Office will have some costs related to their labor and work on dispersing and collecting and things like that. So 2%, we project to collect about $8,000, in the neighborhood of $8,000 to cover those costs, which is, we think, exactly about right. 4%, we had been allowed to charge up to 2.5% by state law to cover these charges, and quite honestly, we don't need that much money, and that's a good sign. So I'm suggesting the figure of 2% in this resolution, which we think will cover the projected cost. The 2% we're not going to use will be dispersed back to the volunteer fire departments and for their use. And that is reflected in the resolution that you have in your packets. And we will do this every year this way. We'll review expected costs and set this amount every year. And thankfully, this first year, I think our costs are going to be pretty reasonable and allow us to drop it down to 2%. In accordance with the language of the ordinance, we needed to do this, make this decision in conjunction and in coordination with our volunteer fire department chiefs and the sheriff, and I've asked Glenn Powell to be here today. If you wouldn't mind coming up real quick, Glenn. I discussed this with you, and we sent word of this slight change out to the chiefs, and have you received any feedback or any pushback or any objection?
I've not received any comments or anything about it. The sole reason for the 4.25 that we had in the agreement was to cover the cost of whatever that might be. We didn't know what those costs was going to be, but that we thought that could be adjusted at some time. So if that there goes back to the fire departments, which that's where it will go, the fire chiefs are all in agreement that another 2% there goes back out to 10 departments, it'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
We've had no feedback on that, and that has already been discussed at one of our meetings about that, and nothing come up at that meeting there.
Any questions for Glenn?
No, Judge, I'd just like to thank, I think part of this reason we let this done was working with all the agencies in the county, the planning, the PVA, the clerk, the judge's office, the sheriff's office, all work together, keep this cost down because they donated a lot of time that nobody charged for. And rightfully so, because the whole idea was to get the money to the fire departments.
Yes.
And I feel like this is another thing that we're giving them more money, closer to every bit of the money that they were supposed to get. They're going to get it, and I'm proud of it.
That was our whole thoughts and process from the beginning is any cost that was incurred was took care of by that.
That's right.
Any other questions for Glenn?
Good deal.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Ed, any thoughts you'd like to give? Now, you and I discussed this, and
I'll take a question from Steve. If the second reading of the ordinance is not passed before the 10th of next month when we distribute the funds, is that an issue? When is our next court
The
date?
next meeting is November 7th, so we should
Good.
be in good
Okay.
shape.
I just want to make sure that
I
wasn't
was thinking
an
about the
issue.
calendar. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
is he trying to ask a trick
you know,
question?
the timing will be just right.
I agree with Charles. It's been a team effort, been a lot of work by a lot of people go into it. I think we've all agreed they've needed help for a long time. I think this will set them back on their feet, and we'll adjust things as we come up on opportunities. Problems are good. We'll adjust things in a fair way, and I'm proud of everybody who's been involved in the system.
Any questions for Sheriff Brady?
No. Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
your-
much. Any other thoughts or comments? So I'd like to ask you to read the resolution and pertaining to Steve's suggestion on the amendment we just read, you probably don't have to read the summary. You can go right to the resolution if you'd like. So.
Okay. Whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court adopted Ordinance 17-02 on April 28, 2017, as a method for the collection of membership charges or subscriber fees for volunteer fire departments within Henderson County by placing such fee notices on property tax bills issued by the county along with an opt-out procedure for subscribers. Whereas said ordinance required the Fiscal Court in consultation with the sheriff and the fire departments to set a collection fee annually for the sheriff to defray the costs of administration, collection, and disbursement in an amount not to exceed 4.25% pursuant to KRS 75.4508 and KRS 423.4012. And whereas after seeking input from both the Henderson County Sheriff and the volunteer fire departments, the Fiscal Court finds that a rate of 2% would fairly and adequately reimburse the sheriff for the costs associated with the collection of said membership fees, subscriber charges for 2017. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Henderson County Fiscal Court that pursuant to KRS 75.4508 and KRS 273.4012, the Henderson County Fiscal Court, in consultation with the sheriff and the fire departments, hereby sets a collection fee for the sheriff to retain an amount of 2% of the membership charges or subscriber fees collected to defray the costs of administration, collection, and disbursement of funds, along with any software acquisition I'm so sorry, and software reprogramming fees associated with compliance with the Henderson County Ordinance 17.02.
Entertain a motion to accept that resolution.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody want to bide a little time while we get the fiscal court clerk a little water?
These colds are terrible. I hate them.
Ed, while we're passing out compliments, I do want to thank your staff for their efforts to work with the public as they come in. I'm sure there will be some people who say, well, I didn't realize that. So, hats off to your staff.
When this is open for discussion, I would like to.
Sure.
Do you have any, is it open for discussion?
Yeah, that's fine.
I just want to make it clear, the way that reads, it sounds like the sheriff is retaining 2% for the sheriff, and the sheriff's going to distribute that money out to the PVA to raise his office to anybody else who has expenses on it. We're not keeping the entire 2%. That 2% will go to various agencies that can show their expenses on it.
Yeah.
And as they opt out, I've heard Some citizens say they want the opt-out sheet, not a tremendous number, but it is a question that comes up at the window. There are some people who are considering it and they want the opt-out form. I don't know if they've been bringing it up to you or not, if they just take them home, decide they're not going to, and throw them in the trash can. But it's not been a big question down there at the offices as I hear them pay their taxes.
So it's been pretty smooth so far.
Pretty smooth, nobody's mad.
Really?
A few of them have said, if I want to opt out next year, how'd I do it? We've instructed them, as the court asked us to, on how they do that. Some of them take the information, and I guess they'll use it. Some of them are taking it and decide they don't want to use it, but it's not been a large question for us to enter. Nobody's been mad about it.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. And again, the language in the resolution regarding reimbursement of the sheriff for the costs, it only says that because the money flows through you, but it's all designed to cover the cost of the program. And on an anecdotal note, there are approximately 9,500 plus parcels in the county that were subject to this ordinance. Approximately 1,710 parcels were opted out on. 1,710 parcels were opted out on. Of that number, 1,710, we've only had 7 errors in getting volunteer fire department dues on tax bills, meaning of the 1,710 that opted out, 7, for whatever reason, still appeared on their tax bill, and we were able to fix those, exonerate those pretty quickly, and that is an error rate of less than 0.5%, which is not bad considering everything. Now, we still have some time to go, obviously, but I've been pleased so far. And as Ed said, nobody's been unreasonable, and we're again, we'll be better at this next year than we are this year, and we'll be better the year after that than we are next year. So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Glenn. So now I'd like to call Bill Hubiak, and we're going to open up some bids on a generator for the jail.
Okay.
This bid is from Cummins Cumberland of Evansville. As you all know, we went out for bid on a backup generator to accommodate the jail's expansion on their kitchen. It was also recommended that we change the specification and also bid a 6,000 kW along with the 600 kW along with the 500 kW. So the transfer switch here, we're looking at the 500 kW, 660 hertz transfers, and all the items listed here, specifications, and includes a startup and after the installation is complete. The generator itself is $78,717.95. The transfer control switch associated with this is $2,783.36. The 1200A ATS is an additional, these are add-ons, is $7,500. The remote annunciator is $300, and for a grand total of $89,301.31. And then we supplemented on this to do the 600 kW. . This was upon the request of the electrical engineer that was doing the project. The total for the 600 kW is $147,937.66, and the transfer switch is $2,783.36 for a grand total of $150,721.02. To add for the 1600 ATS, which was part of the add-ons, this one goes up from the other one. It's $12,300, $300 for the remote annunciator, and so we're looking at those items also. This was done, like I said, as the request of the electrical engineer to see what the difference would be between the 500 kW and the 600 kW. Currently, the one that we have at the jail is 300 kW. The current generator is 300. We're already maxed out at that, and with the revisions from the Department of Corrections, we have to, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to provide hot meals.
Mhm.
So the need being, before it wasn't, that was not the rule in case. And when us being maxed out and the addition in the electrical capacities of the new kitchen will exceed the 300 kW. So we could have got by with a 400 kW, but it would be borderline. If anything else changes at the facility, then they would not have the capability to run the backup generator. So we opted to bid the 500 kW, which gives them enough energy source to run the facility with some spare. But then it was recommended by the electrical engineer to go ahead and just see what the 600 kW would be.
Will we be leaving the old generator down there?
No, the old generator will be repurposed. So we will take that back and we'll figure out where its best use would be within the county system as far as our other facilities. The original one that came from the old jail across the street is the one that we used at the road department for years until we had the ice storm, and then upgraded after that. And that one went over to City County Rescue Squad, so we'll see which one is in most dire need and what will fit as far as facilities, and probably repurpose that one to one of the other facilities and get rid of one of the older models.
Bill, we were noticing here that installation is not included, so I can imagine that that's going to be a fairly substantial amount. And also I noticed too that any permit or applicable tax is not included. So I presume then there's going to be an additional cost here between permit fees, taxes, and or installation.
Installation.
Do you
There
know
will
how
be-
much?
This is just for the material,
Right,
George.
right.
And we are tax exempt.
Okay.
We do not pay any sales tax. That's one of the reasons it's bid separately. There's no contractor markup.
Okay.
Now, as far as the installation, yes, that'll have to be bid separately, and it will be done so accordingly. So,
This is our only bid.
So,
that's the only bid that we received, so.
so who makes the decision between a 5 and a 6?
Do what now?
Who makes the decision between a 5 and a 6?
Well, I think we need to sit down with the jail committee and talk it over. This is not part of the funding of the project of the jail expansion. This is something that came up afterwards, so that's why it was bid separately. So it will be decided upon by that group. I'd say, Amy, we can have a meeting as soon as possible so we can expedite the ordering of the thing and report back.
And we've also anticipated paying for this out of jail funding, correct? Either
correct.
surplus or line items in the jail budget.
That's correct.
So you recommend the jail committee meet soon to make a decision on whether we go 500 or 600, and then we'll be bidding out installation cost?
That's correct.
Now, this is going to be done with the jail expansion project. So we've already got electrical contractor permitted down there on this thing. So it's going to have to be a separate permit to hook the generator up if somebody different gets the.
It could be. They will be subject to, hooking it, to bid on it also. I mean, this is something, that's going to go from basically where all the switch gear is now on the electrical room, and we'll have to have a new pad, because this unit is larger than the 300 one out there. It's going to go in the same location. So, I mean, but it will be done as a separate thing.
Is the underground pipe big enough to pull it through?
The one that we have there, no. It'll have to be run separately. Yeah. The conduit's not big enough to suffice the new generator.
Could you pair it?
And the pad will have to be poured. They'll keep the other one in place up until the time where, it's the switch over, as much as remaining, to make it, just in case something did happen. But when we were out there, we met with the electrical contractor who was here, and we discussed a lot of things out there of the placement of the new one and everything else. Made sure we had ample space and tried to figure the point of least resistance of how to get the new conduit and everything into the building, and we feel there was adequate area there coming in by that back access door to facilitate this. Any other questions?
Just a clarification. Carter asked the question, said we have a contractor that's permitted on the job doing the expansion. Maybe I missed it, but so this would be an additional permit and fees associated. Was that your question, Carter?
If the same contractor gets you, would have to get another permit, would you?
That's what I'm trying to clear up.
But if you've got another contractor, you'd have to have a different permit.
Is that right, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, but we're not talking
It's
millions of dollars here.
okay, it's just
hooking up the generator for a permit fee.
it's not a percentage of the project as a whole.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, I think it would, when we're at the jail committee meeting, I think this could be discussed and we can make a recommendation at that point, because, there are certain issues. Just like I said, this was not part of that original contract.
All right. Thanks.
Any other questions for Bill? He'll be calling a meeting soon and getting back to us. Is this something we can take care of by the next fiscal court meeting, you think?
I think most immediately, yeah. I mean, we have one coming up on the 7th. We can have a meeting next week. We have an update meeting, or we schedule one, and then we can bring it back on the 7th immediately. Well, basically, the recommendation is going to be whether we go with the 500 or 600 kW. That's it. We only have one vendor. But that's what
Bill, I guess, again, we were just discussing, so since we're going to go to bid, you're going to estimate that the cost is going to exceed $20,000. Because if
Yes.
not, back to what Carter's saying, if it's under 20, we could have the guy do it. So you're projecting it's going to be over 20?
I would project that, yes.
Really? Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Hubiak? I don't think we need to take a vote to accept this bid today until you come back with a recommendation on which version you'll want. Thank you. And as we talk about the jail project, I thought it'd be good to ask Jay Smith from our project manager for the detention center expansion to join us. You have in your packets some expenses related to the project recently, both kitchen equipment and general contract expenses. And Jay, with that, I'll turn it over to you for an update.
Thank you, Judge. If you look down the list, what this basically is a little spreadsheet of the current extras and costs to the facility. We started out the project with a remediation allowance of $20,000, knowing that there might be some unforeseen conditions. The biggest item there is where we pulled out the food service equipment out of the contract, the amount of $281. The jail is going to directly pay for that instead of through the contract. But by doing that, there's some additional costs you have to add back in. It's going to give basically a net credit back to the contract of $48,000. By doing that, a couple other items that are added back in is we had some, originally we had some allowances for detention security, cameras, conduit, things like that. A couple items, they wanted to add a few more cameras, and also their computer system was going down, so we added back a computer system. In a nutshell, when you come down to the bottom, the one thing that's not on this is the installation of the kitchen equipment. We're estimating that somewhere around $20,000. You can see that at the bottom. But at current status, if there's no other unforeseen conditions, we're looking at probably a credit back to the county from the contract of about $2,500. So we're within the contract limits at this point.
I'd like to ask Jailer Brady to come up, if you don't mind, Amy, just to offer any insight. Again, the key here is we're staying within the total budget of the expansion. And if I understand correctly, Amy, you're going to be taking some of the cost of this additional food service equipment onto your budget yourself. Is that right? Is that what Jay just said?
Yes, sir. We purchased the food equipment ourselves, and we saved money by doing so. We've got it in storage right now. It's already been paid for.
Any other questions?
One more thing, Judge, I would like to add. If you look on there, PR 16, number 16, there's a number in there that has not been approved yet. That has to do with the new generator, and that's taking all the side from our contract side, from that generator point, putting it in the transfer switch, getting it back to the existing equipment in the kitchen through the corridors and all that. That number is probably going to come down a little bit. We're still negotiating that number, so that $30,061 is going to be a little less than that.
It's always good news. That also in your packet, you may have noticed an update of the monthly disbursements for the project. Any other thoughts you want to give on those?
Not at this time.
All related to the expansion project and all within budget and part of the process.
We're just waiting on the weather to clear up a little bit right now.
Yeah, we're a little behind schedule.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
When you have a small project like this, detention doors take 6 to 8 weeks, and nobody figures that when they bid it. When you have a large project, you're still doing masonry and everything, but when you have a small project, that masonry goes real quick. So that the lack of having the detention doors there at the time has slowed us up a little bit. Also, our floor, the type of flooring system we have is very moisture conscious. So we're trying to dry out the floor, make sure we get a good bond between the floor. So that's been our two issues that slowed the project up a little bit.
It's a little behind schedule on time, but right on schedule budget-wise, right?
Correct.
Any other thoughts from members of the jail committee? Anything you'd like to add? Or
I think the project's going pretty well. Do we have, do we see that we'll catch up? Or
They already have started the phase 2 work, which they were not going to start until they completed phase 1. So that's kind of been there a little bit of help push that along. Let's go ahead and start that phase 2 work.
Okay.
How far, what time frame are you kind of behind?
Looking to get into the kitchen probably the first part of next month. Hopefully they'll have everything.
So are you
completed.
6 weeks behind?
Yes. Yeah, at
about
least
6 weeks.
Okay.
Now, the
And then
generator's going to take 12 weeks to get.
right, but we will have everything in where until the generator gets there, we're fine. It won't affect opening that part because it's just hooking that then up to the transfer switch. So that's what that part in there is, so that the kitchen could open before the generator comes and not have an issue. It just won't be on generator yet.
Right.
So.
Good deal.
any other thoughts or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. I'd like to ask Angie Hagedorn from the Humane Society to come up and give us an update on animal control.
Good morning, County Judge, Magistrates,
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, County Attorney. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Have you had a chance to review the financials? And do you have any questions?
I know we've talked about this in the past, but it's been a challenge even this fiscal year to balance the budget. And
Yes.
we discussed a bit about some of the the unusual circumstances surrounding influx of pets from hurricane-affected territories and other things that impact the Humane Society's bottom line. But despite the deficit on paper, you feel pretty confident that able to keep
Yes,
things moving along smoothly?
We're making some internal changes. In September, there were 2 hurricanes, and so where we typically have other rescues that pull animals from us, we did not have that, which we had, and we also had an increase in intakes, which means dogs and cats coming in. Just to give you for instance, we started off the fiscal year with 70 dogs and 106 cats. As of right now, we have taken in 75 strays, 35 owner surrenders, and 19 seized dogs just in the first 3 months of this fiscal year. So that means that our supplies go up, and so we are seeking out other avenues to purchase supplies and get those things taken care of. But we've had more county runs, so that our animal control officers have been out a lot more. And September, unfortunately, had 3 payrolls, so that hit me also. So I just wanted to update you on the numbers so that you could understand. And so whenever rescues can't pull from us, then that just gets us where we have a lot of animals in the shelter. So we're working on it, and we hope to have it turned around, I'm hoping by the first of the year.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions or other comments or concerns?
I have a question. I was talking to some high school kids.
Yes.
Didn't think about this out in the hallway. But anyhow, they were telling me about out in California, they've passed a state law now that your pet stores or whatever, I guess it's pet store, and y'all may know more about this than I do, in that they can no longer have puppy mill type.
Yes.
They have to be animals that are, whatever the term.
But they're from rescues or shelters.
Correct.
Yes.
I think and these are teenagers or 15-year-old kids, they think it's great.
I would so applaud that if that occurred here.
Yeah.
That would help tremendously.
I agree. So I guess my next question will be, is there any likelihood that will expand nationwide? Have you heard any growing support for that?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I hope
California's
so.
different, I'll have to say that. But I think it's a great concept. So
Yes.
I know
Adopt,
some kids
don't shop.
I know some kids or youngsters that I think would really take that and love to push that. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for the update. Appreciate
you.
you being here. Good luck.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, in your packet is a resolution in support of I-69 Central Corridor 1. This is similar to the resolution that was recently passed by the Evansville City Council and also Henderson City Commission, expressing specific support for one of the corridors that many regional organizations, including BridgeLink, believe make the most sense for us. Thought with other governmental entities expressing support for Central Corridor 1, it might be good for us to do the same if you're of a mind. Attached to the resolution is a map showing the 3 remaining corridors that are being considered by the Indiana and Kentucky combined I-69 team. Central Corridor 1 is the one that does not come over the 41 strip. The other 2 corridors being considered both impact businesses and or homes on the 41 strip. And as you well know, that entails quite a bit of disruption and cost. And thought it might be good to weigh in a bit with the team as to the preference of the fiscal court for the corridor that has the least amount of impact, the least amount of cost, and may enable the project to get built sooner, and also leave in place multiple routes across the Ohio River. Placed this in your packet, sent out an email message regarding this earlier, and I'd like to open it up to your thoughts or observations.
Well, I'll just be brief, Judge, but seems like their recommendation is in line with the cost savings, less impact, less disturbance of properties. So it just seems like a common sense approach to me to this huge animal. So,
And again, this is merely offering our opinion as a collective group. There are lots of variables in play, but I think a strong message from our community about supporting things that impact our businesses or homeowners less, costs less money, makes it more likely that this will get built sooner is a positive step. So,
and multiple routes, I guess,
right. Redundancy
across the river.
Redundancy of routes across the river is something very important to our
Yeah,
community
sure.
as well. So,
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Judge, I briefly talked to you before. The only concern that I have in that these are our only choices. I've always been more of an advocate for, it would have been corridor number 2, I guess, central corridor number 2. And this is going back, I even found a newspaper article back to 2001. And I can remember Gross Clay Lindsay stating that build a roadway that will allow the community to grow out to, which then, and he compared to Louisville with, what is it, 264 bypass.
Bypass,
and, you've got Lexington, and even now they've all built additional bypasses. I know our choices today are either 41 or Central Corridor 1, but I still to this day feel that the federal or the people evaluating this still should have looked at Central Corridor 2 for economic opportunities, and I'm talking more about hotels, restaurants, things like that, because you had more interchanges that had the ability to allow that kind of development. Not that the Central Corridor 1 doesn't have at least an interchange on 60. The other one had an Audubon Park and a 351, or not Audubon Park, but Audubon Parkway, and as well as 60. But anyhow, I'm just disappointed that we ended up with not going, or still leaving Central Corridor 2 in the mix. So,
and just to clarify, Central Corridor 1 does have an exit at Zion Road. It utilized the existing exit at Zion Road, and it utilized the existing interchange at the Audubon Parkway. They just wouldn't be new exits.
yeah, they just had to go out to it as opposed to having one in. But you're right.
Yeah, understood. Any other thoughts or comments? I do think it's valuable for the court to be to weigh in on this issue, even though again it's one opinion among many, and the I-69 team is taking input from many different constituencies as they work through this issue. But I think it'd be good to for the court to express not only support for Corridor 1, but concern about the impacts of either West Corridor 1 or 2, the severity of those impacts, as well as the idea that we would still be left with a single Ohio River crossing. And I think if you are, if you live in Frankfort or Indianapolis and you're an engineer and you look at the basic utility and the ongoing expense of maintaining the older bridges, you can understand how somebody might think, well, let's replace them. But if you live here and you understand how disruptive it is if the bridge is delayed for any reason, having multiple routes across the river is something that many people have in the region have expressed and made a goal of this project. And I think we all agree that having more than one option for people to cross the Ohio River is important to all of us, and this resolution reflects that as well.
Judge, the way I see it, that now this one or two would keep from disrupting 41, the business area, right? It would just shoot them through there to where they would still have an opportunity to be on 41, correct?
You're talking about West Corridor 1 or 2?
No, I'm talking about Central Corridor 1.
Central Corridor 1.
Not out there anymore.
Central Corridor 1,
okay,
which is the only remaining option, does join into the bypass very close to the strip, very close to the Cloverleaf, the 60 Cloverleaf now. So it would still leave 41 as one of the major gas, food, lodging exits for people traveling through, which is another reason that Central Corridor 1 is desirable, I think, because it keeps 41 in play as a place for visitors to spend money.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the farther eastern corridors might have created a situation where traffic was completely bypassing that part of Henderson. West Corridor 1 and 2, interestingly enough, even though they're coming right over the Strip, could negatively impact businesses even more than any other corridors that weren't on the Strip because of the reconfiguration and the limited number of exits that could be created on the Strip because of the proximity of so many businesses and homes. There are many problematic situations surrounding those two corridors.
I have, a little bit of concern, like George did, that it would stifle maybe a little growth. But also, I've had a couple comments from the community that Central 1, even though looks like there's an interchange there, and it says potential interchange location where it goes into 41. There's been a couple comments made that it doesn't look like that you'll be able to go back north on 41 once you come off the central corner number 2.
But you will.
Okay, I told him, I said,
Is Cloverleaf
there's no
at
way.
351 still going to be there? The Cloverleaf at 351, Zion Road?
Yes.
It'll still be there.
That'll be upgraded to an
Yes,
interstate
upgraded,
standard,
yes.
and it'll still be an exit.
I've
Yes.
seen them out there surveying and around that area.
Yeah. The yellow boxes are new exits that would be built.
But somewhere it says potential, but I'm sure there will be an interchange. I couldn't imagine not being able to go back north.
Central Corridor 1 does include an option to exit onto the 41 Strip
Yep.
or continue south
Continue
on
south,
what would
yes.
be named I-69.
One of the problems too on that West Corridor 1 or 2 is that even if you look at the opportunity for development, as I was talking to one of the people there at one of the meetings, what they'd have to do is go by, and this is, I guess, both pros and cons, but they'd have to maybe buy 10 homes to be able to put in that hotel or to put in that restaurant because there is no area. So not only are you going to take away existing businesses that are there on 41 to be able to do a true development, you may need as much as a block to be able to do a multi. So you're not talking about just the impact of the roadway, but the whole benefit of an interstate is the growth from the interstate, which is hotels, restaurants, other offices. And so to be able to actually use some of these interchanges they're showing over, say, on Elm Street or near Elm Street, you're talking about hundreds of homes that can be. Now, some people would say, okay, you offer me enough money and I'll sell. But there's a lot of people that will say, no, I was born here, my kids were raised here, I don't want to move. And it's going to be very disruptive. I don't see a benefit at all of West Corridor 1 or 2. I mean, I really don't.
It's been estimated that West Corridor 1 will impact more than 200 homes on the west side of 41 Strip. West Corridor 2 will impact every business on the east side of the Strip.
Yeah. And that's just the initial construction.
Yeah.
That doesn't include that auxiliary type development that'll happen after those interchange comes in.
And the cost figures you see at the bottom of your map do not include acquisition costs or legal defenses. And there would almost guarantee you to be legal action based on one of the two west corridors. It just happens with interstate development. So land acquisition and legal costs, I think, would be significant and may delay the project.
Yeah.
May make the project even more unaffordable.
It'll be a
in that
class
point.
action type.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a class action type lawsuit, not just individual.
Perhaps,
Yeah.
perhaps. But anything that would put the building of the route in jeopardy even more than, it's going to be a big ticket item as it is. Anything that would add to that might delay this even further. So again, another reason we think to support Central Corridor 1 as a group. So can I get a motion to support this resolution?
Yeah, I move we support it, Judge.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or thoughts? Please take a vote. Please read the resolution.
Whereas with I-69 nearing completion from Canada to Memphis, the I-69 Ohio River crossing is quickly becoming southwest Indiana and northwest Kentucky's most critical infrastructure need. Otherwise, I-69 essentially becomes a cul-de-sac at the Ohio River. Whereas the age of the current Highway 41 Ohio River crossing, built before modern earthquake standards, dictates an additional alternative crossing is needed while preserving the current Highway 41 bridge as an alternative crossing for the region's safety and security. Whereas NDOT and KYTC and their currently ongoing National Environmental Policy Act study have reduced to 3 the potential corridors for I-69 Ohio River crossing, and said corridors are depicted on the attached Exhibit A, which is made a part hereof. Whereas the 2 remaining western corridors proposed would not include an alternative new crossing route and would significantly displace homes and businesses, further prolonging completion of the I-69 project. Whereas Central Corridor 1 provides a significant cost savings over said 2 western corridors and minimizes the number of new lane miles and interchanges, and will provide an alternative bridge route over the Ohio River and be the least disruptive and most physically responsible option of the 3 corridors. Whereas BridgeLink is a bi-state regional nonprofit group created in October 2013, consisting of business and civic leaders of Southwest Indiana and Northern Kentucky, whose primary focus is to concentrate on securing funding and advocating for the expedient completion of this region's new I-69 Ohio River crossing. And BridgeLink has been unanimously recommended the NEPA process select Central Corridor 1, as do many other regional organizations. Whereas Henderson County Fiscal Court believes for the reasons stated herein it is in the best interest of Henderson County to support the selection of Central Corridor 1 as the path for a new I-69 Ohio River crossing, and that tolling or other user fees be considered to assist in financing to expedite the construction of said new I-69 bridge. Now therefore be it resolved by the Henderson County Fiscal Court on the basis of the following reasons: saving taxpayer dollars, lessening disruption to existing residents and businesses, expediting construction, reducing travel disruptions during construction, and providing the existing Highway 41 bridge as an alternative to serve the region's emergency, safety, and economic interests, hereby supports the selection of Corridor 1 as the path for the new I-69 Ohio River crossing, while preserving an alternative crossing of at least one of the existing twin bridges without tolls.
So we have a motion and a second on that resolution. Any other comments? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
I'm going to go ahead and vote in favor of it, but with the disclaimer that I still preferred Corridor 2, and I think for the long-range benefit of the community, Corridor 2 would have been more beneficial. But I'll go with the vote yes for this.
Okay. Magistrate Alexander.
Yes.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. And we'll pass that along to the I-69 Ohio River Crossing team. At this point, I'd like George Warren to talk to us a little bit about the potential home builders incentive proposal that he mentioned last meeting, and I think he's going to come down and address us here from the podium.
Steve, do I need to hold down? Okay. The reason why I'm down here on this side is that because I do represent the home builders, Judge and I thought that way there would not be any concern about conflict of interest as a magistrate with anything that Carter, and I should say Carter, not Carter is actually serving on this committee as well. What I think we would like to do, and Carter, if this is agreeable with you as well, to wait another, say, month to be able to get some more information. Carter's got a great idea that he's talked about, and I don't want to disclose everything because, again, that's the reason why we want to come back. I've talked to a couple of cities that have done some things that have been kind of a incentive, we'll call it, for their community, but it really wasn't the county driving those particular incentives. So we would have to, Carter and I need to kind of come with you all with a prepared document that would say, here's what we can do as a county, but the comparison that I'm using is actually a city. and that's for annexation. To date, we're still not building at the level we'd like to. In city and county combined, I think we're at 25 homes that have been permitted. The other counties in the region will be, Hopkins County is going to be 70, Davis County's, the planning and zoning gentleman told me yesterday that they're averaging between 15 and 20 per month. So you're looking at 150 to 200 in Davis County. Of course, Warren County, I don't really count Warren County because Bowling Green has the college and also interstates, which I-69 will help us, and then also with things. So with that being said, we need to do something. Home building still is not at the level that Henderson needs with the great quality of life that we have. So I'm asking if we can to come back in a month with more defined information as opposed just to throw something at you and say, well, here's what they're doing, but it may not be applicable to us with that.
Okay, so we'll wait a month.
If that's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Magistrate Warren, and now I'd like to call up Renice Abner. County Clerk's report, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have the report for September, and also I have the quarterly excess fees to report. So for September 2017, I have a total amount remitted to the county as $173,940.32, and excess fees is $125,757.17. And that compares to September of 16 as being up $28,000. So that's good news. Quarterly, our excess fees, $290,664.25. And that, as compared to this same quarter in 2016, is down $50,000. And that's due to our delinquent taxes. We collected about $164,000 less in delinquent taxes for these 3 months. I don't know. I was just looking and comparing the numbers, and that's what it's due to. Also, our motor vehicle receipts were down as well. So that's
Do we
the
have
result.
fewer delinquent taxes?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Which is probably good news.
It is. I mean, people are paying more on time, so I mean that's good. So, but that's the result of that, and maybe next quarter we'll bounce back. So, but that's
Thank you.
that's
Any
the
other
report.
questions of Renisa?
And also, I just wanted to remind everybody that the first day for filing is November the 8th. So, for the primary next year. So, and we have packets ready and available for pickup if anybody wants to pick up to file for office.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Gentlemen, you also have in your packets the sheriff's reports for this month, including franchise fees.
We need. I
need
make a
to accept
motion.
those. Yeah, sorry.
I make a motion. We accept the clerk's report.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Let's take a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Sorry for jumping the gun. You also have your sheriff's reports for the month, as including franchise fee receipts. Any other questions of Sheriff Brady on those?
I move to accept.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
I'd like to ask Treasurer Brenda Ryder to come up and update us on claims.
Thank you, Brenda.
These are your bank balances after paying claims today. Your day-to-day expense line items should be at approximately 33%. With that said, what you do not have in your packet is your receipts and appropriation report. The reason it's not available is I'm still in the midst of the software conversion and hopefully will be fully completed within 3 weeks. You do have your first quarter ending for fiscal year 18, quarter ending 9/30/17. You should have that in your packet also. You do have your new vendor claims register that looks a lot different from what you're accustomed to seeing. Hopefully, it'll be able to provide you more information. It is a work in progress, and it does read a little bit differently.
This is a result of the new software.
Yes, sir. I do have one additional claim to add, and that is from the jail fund in the amount of $5,022 to Craftmaster Hardware Company for building repairs.
Any other questions or thoughts on claims?
One of these claims says judge executive salaries. It says Downey's Plumbing.
That is a mistake that after this was printed, that is a voided check. I've been working on that this morning.
So it actually went to Judicial Center.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good catch. I was about to ask what the heck that was.
I've got it.
And the amounts were different.
Well,
You had 204 for one of them and 164 for the other one.
the
165.
accounts payable inputting, we got in a little bit of a hurry.
Okay.
And I hope to get feedback for Brenda on the format of these claims. Again, this is the way they will look with the new software. A little bit more detail with this, I think. And yeah.
There are a few restrictions, but the software provider is working with us as well as other counties to maybe update a couple of the restrictions that we've brought to light.
Also, are you going to talk a little bit about the jail department claims list? Do we have to approve that as part of this as well, or that's already approved because it's part of the approved plan?
It's already approved.
Yeah.
That's part of the approved plan.
So if you have any other questions on claims?
No, I think the good news is we're well within the percentage where we should be for our first quarter, which is excellent. And we're doing quite well in healthcare, I believe, as we discussed yesterday.
Yes, sir.
So we're kind of right on target.
Yes, sir. Yeah, obviously in the quarterly report, our percentages should be right around 25%. Sheriff Jailer Brady has a comment.
On the $5,000 that's being paid, that will come out of our expansion account. We'll be reimbursed for that. They could not order the locks. They wouldn't sell them to a construction company.
Oh.
So we had to order the locks ourselves.
Understand. Gotcha. Any other thoughts from members of the Finance Committee? I'm glad you said something, Magistrate, but any other?
I'm just glad that we did make that conversion to the new software, and I can appreciate that you're going through a lot.
It gets better every day, and
yeah.
hopefully, and it is a work in progress, and hopefully it will be a really nice tool to use.
We are now doing payroll on the new software. We're doing accounts payable on the new software. We're cutting checks on the new software, and the remaining work to do is on reports.
More or less, well, it's the finalizing the general ledger as well as the month end, and getting more out of the reports as it becomes available.
And you mentioned, too, that the staff from the company is very supportive and very good to work with, which is nice to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, on the road department, they had a Palmer's bill for 138. Is there any way we could track those vehicles that go and buy the fuel from Palmer's? Because I know we do. We have separate cards for each vehicle. We have to put the truck number on it.
Mr. Huback, you want to speak to that a little bit?
What that actually is a pump hose in the amount of $138.41. It's a pump hose.
Says fuel, okay, right.
That part of some of the discrepancies is because of the input of the descriptions and the vendor codes. I mean, the fields are a lot different, and we're getting used to them. For the first run, this is pretty clean.
So it wasn't actually for fuel. But do you ever purchase fuel other than the bulk fuel that you buy, Bill? Do individual trucks ever use local gas stations to refuel other
No, we
than?
do not use local gas. We have everything is shipped in bulk. Now,
Yeah, that's why I thought it was.
Is that your question?
Yeah, that's why I thought it was odd,
Yeah.
because you usually don't see any
Right.
gas tickets for.
that could have been something that we needed on the on the pump itself,
Yeah.
something like that, where we were having some
The pump
difficulties
hose,
with it.
they could have broke one, you go and pick it up at Palmer, Or it's really Palmer's bulk plants where you pick it up at.
They assist us with our bulk fuel system, just as Home Oil assists us with our bulk oil.
Gotcha.
Inside the building.
Understood.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Brenda on the claims?
I move we pay the claims.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, I've got a few checks today. The first being check for salaries, FICA, and retirement in the amount of $1,006.06, a reimbursement of $458.33, health, dental, life insurance, $201.63, $25.18, $246.93, $7,575.24, and AFLAC payment for $25.20, bringing today's total to $9,538.57, and the fiscal year to date to $47,609.66.
A motion to accept those.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Mr. Gold, please call for a vote.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate Warren.
Aye.
Magistrate Alexander.
Aye.
Magistrate Todd.
Aye.
And Magistrate Wilkerson.
Aye.
Thank you, Steve. Would anybody from the audience this morning like to say anything for the good of the county? Mr. Bishop, anything to report?
Morning, everyone. I had hoped to come bearing gifts, but I will have to settle with good news. The Planning Commission received our final audit for the last year's fiscal year. We have excess revenue in the amount of $55,783.08. This will be divided equally between the city and the county, which means the county will receive $27,891.65. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Huback, did you have something?
I'd just like to report to fiscal court that we completed the construction of Martin Road Bridge by Soper Crowder. It was open to the public last Monday, so we have a good bridge in place, much wider than one lane bridge that was there. This was our first steel structure bridge that we put in the county. It was very cost effective in that area on the gravel road. Also, we completed all of our blacktopping for this fiscal year. It was finished up here last week or weekend. We have started reclaiming the sides of the road, and we have striped the county's portion of Watson Lane from the city limits down to the four-way stop with the double yellow line that was there before, and we are reestablishing the shoulders on that road also.
Thank you. Anyone else? Magistrate Putman?
Thank you, Judge. I should have mentioned it a minute ago. Just want to compliment all of our department heads and those elected to head all the departments, what a great job they're doing to stay within what was budgeted. I think we spoke about that, and compliment all you guys. You're doing a great job, and all is good in the fourth, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Magistrate Warren?
Bill, I know I've said before, but if you will relate to the road department, the great job they're doing. I've had, very, very few calls, and more of this was a few months ago on the particular gravel roads. Y'all have taken care of that during the harvest season. I've received compliments on the blacktop and the fact that you're grading back to the gravel to the side now. That'll alleviates one call that I had, but I knew about that. And Ed, I want to thank you for your patience with the people as they come in on the paying their taxes. I know that can be an issue, but it sounds like, again, as I said earlier, they're handling it well, and so thank you. So all's good.
Master Alexander?
I have nothing. Everything's okay, seems to be.
Deal. Master Todd?
It's all good. Bill, I want to thank you. There's a couple farmers calling you. You actually dug out some ditches correctly, and so it's good when you get some complaints. It's good that they also call and compliment you. So I want to pass that on, and so thank you there, and thanks for everything you do, and all's good in two.
Thank you, Magistrate Wilkerson.
Just want to let everybody know we did have a prime piece of real estate downtown Henderson sell this week.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lindsay Emery bought the employment office.
Did he?
And I'm glad that he got it, other than the city getting it. So, because we know it's going to go into something. But everything else is good.
Deal. Mr. Gold?
Not a whole lot today, Judge. I was at a Tri-County Council of Labor dinner Saturday night, and Colonel David Crafton with the Sheriff's Department received their big award, their Community Service Award, and he does a lot of great work for this community. It was good to see him recognized. It was also good to see Magistrate Putman receive the President's Award that night. So the county was well represented for that dinner, and a lot of accolades there, a lot of well-deserved accolades.
Excellent, thank you. Last week, both Magistrate Warren and I attended a public open house around the Spotsville Bridge project, and it was interesting presentations to hear. There was several community members there. That project is moving forward. Complicating it a bit is as you know, they found a structural deficiency in the current bridge that they're having to fix and limit traffic on the bridge while they fix that, and it'll take a little while. And there'll be people will have to show some patience while they both fix that and go through the process of designing and locating and building the new bridge. But I think everybody was patient there that night. The questions were good. I would urge the community, again, just to be patient, try to help keep things as smooth as possible in the current traffic flow. And I really want to express thanks to our Sheriff's Department and our local state police post for helping farmers move equipment back and forth on the Audubon Parkway. They're still in the middle of harvest, and there probably couldn't have been a worse time for something like this to happen. But we're figuring it out, and I know that our deputies are helping whenever they can, and I think they've got a good arrangement in place to get that done. So thank you to all those folks, and we'll keep you posted on the Spotsville Bridge project as it moves along. We'll also perhaps invite members, representatives of the I-69 crossing team to come to Fiscal Court and give us an update on that project as well, a bit more of an overview as it moves forward. I don't think they've necessarily done that in some time here, so they're about due. I'll be extending an invitation. I know we have the CAECO conference coming up soon, and I think it's fair to say that all of us are keeping a close eye on the pension debate and how it impacts local counties and cities. And we expressed earlier our opinion about the separation issue when it comes to state pensions. Hopefully that is still in play as a conversation point, a point of debate if the governor calls a special session. But having Bruce Todd head up the CAECO board and being on the front lines of that talk, I know is valuable for us, so thank you. And we will try to keep you as informed as possible. from what I gather, nothing will happen before the next fiscal year, so this will not impact most likely our current budget, but obviously our next one could very well be impacted greatly, and we'll be talking about that soon as well. We are participating in a bit of a competition among all the grad counties to gather up food donations. You might see outside our door here a box for canned goods and other shelf-stable foods. So if y'all are, or checks, they'll take money. The food collected in the courthouse here will go to a local food bank. So if any of you feel generous or want to go buy a whole bunch of corn or green beans, just go ahead and feel free, or you can leave us a check.
The deadline is Friday, too.
Friday.
Yeah.
And speaking of deadlines, Halloween is fast approaching, and I know in addition to being a fun time of year, it's also time when we have to be very aware of kids out there and things that go along with Halloween that are not so fun. So want to give Ed a heads up, and I'm sure they're preparing for not only the East End event that's going to happen on the Sunday before Halloween, but also just being careful of all the people out and about on the 31st, and hopefully the police scanner will be fairly quiet that evening. We'll just have to knock on wood and light a candle. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave. Thank you.